views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello, welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Hyman, and today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, of course, we give you an update on what's going on right here in the Bronx. Plus, President Donald Trump blames the media for the country's division at a rally held in Arizona. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports that Senator Mitch McConnell believes that President Trump cannot save his presidency. We'll discuss this and more with our political commentators. After that, we're going to hear from a not-for-profit organization helping those in need around the world. Then we're discussing the upcoming city and city council, and mayoral primary elections that are taking place in September. Also, in a discussion on an upcoming mission trip to Haiti when we sit down with a representative from a meaningful world organization. And then lastly, we're going to hear about a community meeting hosted by the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open. I'm your host, Darren Hyman. Today is Wednesday, August 23rd. Of course, you're watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. Now, we want to encourage you to stay connected to us, and you can find out more about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, a lot has been going on over the past week, but right now, we'll catch you up with some local Bronx updates. Two Confederate statues were recently removed from Bronx Community College. Confederate Army Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson's statues, were removed from the college. This from the Hall of Fame for Great Americans, and it was at the College Hall of Fame of Great Americans, And after the recent protest in Charlottesville, the Governor Cuomo actually called for the removal of Confederate statues, saying that New York stands against racism. Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. even joined in, calling the presence of the statues especially galling. In a statement written on the school website, Bronx Community College President Thomas Escangibi wrote, quote, "Embracing differences includes creating spaces where all people feel respected, welcomed, and valued." Well, in other news, drivers in New York City are breathing a bit of a sigh of relief. This coming as New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is rejecting a plan for congestion pricing. Now, the mayor says he's not in favor of the plan, which would charge drivers entering the busiest parts of New York City. The idea was turned down in 2008 during former Mayor Mike Bloomberg's days, but the plan is receiving major support from New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, who believes congestion pricing will help raise money for ailing subway systems. Now, Mayor de Blasio has countered the governor's proposal, stating that his millionaire's tax proposal would have more of a change in Albany than congestion pricing. Well, 14-year-old by the name of Dominic Best collapsed during football practice at Mount St. Michael Academy. The freshman was running sprints when he suddenly collapsed in the field. The student was treated on campus and then transferred to Montefiore Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead, according to police. Some say the death could have been caused by the scorching temperatures on Tuesday, but an investigation is ongoing and the medical examiner will determine the cause of death, and that announcement has not yet been made. A new mural was unveiled at Marcia's house, the city's first only LGBTQ homeless shelter for young adults. Now, the mural was created by Amaj, a 24-year-old who was kicked out of the house by his family members and now resides at the homeless shelter. The hand-painted mural reflects the shelter and its mission to provide a safe environment for the LGBTQ community. The mural also includes residents of the shelter, including late activist Marsha P. Johnson. In other news, the Lehman College Physics Department gave some students and faculty members the opportunity to witness that solar eclipse. Our reporter Justin Rodriguez was out in the sun and brings us the story.
The Lehman College Physics Department gave both faculty and students the opportunity to witness a rare occurrence, the Great American Eclipse.
We're getting some interested people together to have a chance to look at the eclipse.
The Lehman College Physics Department chair supplied students with the correct equipment needed to view the eclipse in a safe and intriguing way.
In New York, the moon won't completely block the light from the sun. It's going to cover about 70% of the sun. So you do need some special kind of equipment to look at the sun. So we've got a solar filter here, which lets a little bit of the light through. So most of the sun's light will reflect off, but some of it will go through, and you'll be able to look directly at the sun.
At first glance, the solar filter looks like an ordinary mirror, but as faculty members soon realized, the circular piece of equipment provides a clear view of the rare eclipse.
Okay, so I didn't really know what it was. It looked like everybody was looking at themselves. And then so he held it up and he said it looks like a mirror, but it actually filters some of the light through from the sun. And then when you look at it, you see the crescent actually as part of your reflection, right above your forehead.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, at first it's just like it looks like a circular mirror, right? So you're just staring and like, oh, it's just me, right? And then all of a sudden it's like it comes right above your forehead. It's pretty cool.
With the help from the Lehman College Physics Department, this rare cosmic occurrence is one that the campus will never forget. For BronxNet, Justin Rodriguez.
The question will be, where were you when the eclipse was taking place? Thanks, Justin. Well, we're taking a quick break. We'll be back with the latest in politics. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.
Well, last night, protesters were outside a President Trump rally in Arizona while the president gave a lengthy off-the-script speech. The president defended his Charlottesville's comments, vowing to shut down the government and also to build the wall in Mexico and much more. Also, the New York Times is reporting that Senator Mitch McConnell believes that the president is unfit to salvage his presidency. Here now to discuss the recent events, we welcome now political organizer Lee Bynes, or I should say, and Bronx GOP Representative Nasir Muhammad. I should say Lee Bynes is the order of Retrovision Media and our political analyst, and so we want to thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Always glad to be here.
All right, we want to make sure we've got a good, Mr. Muhammad, thank you for coming and saying
Thank you.
As we look yesterday, Lee, I mean, obviously I had the opportunity to watch this speech, and I was kind of taken aback at how off the script it was. And in addition to, the president just seemed to be in, well, I would say rare form, but it seems like regular form for this. And looking and listening to what was being said, the tonality of what was, or the tone that was being really spoken of, really left a lot of people shaking their heads and asking the question whether or not we're going to see effective government.
Short answer, doubtful. You know, the speech the president gave the other night as far as the Afghanistan issue was concerned. It was fully scripted. He stayed on message. He never took his eye off the ball with regards to the message. And a lot of people, it raised a lot of hopes for what was going to happen the next day. People were thinking, well, maybe this is a turning point for the president. Maybe he's seen the errors of his ways over the last week and how much turmoil that he was pretty much responsible for. But he went back to vintage Trump. He went back into serious campaign mode, and he pretty much destroyed any goodwill that he could have built up over the last couple of days by going back to where he was. He pretty much brought back a lot of those haunting feelings that a lot of people had about him, about his message, about the people that he was speaking to, because I'm talking about a ruby red meat that he was throwing to those crowds, talking about the wall, talking about the possibility of pardoning Sheriff Aparo, one of the most I don't want to say it, but racist individuals in that region of the country.
Mr. Muhammad, give me a little bit about this here from the GOP perspective. Obviously, a lot of concern because you've got a president that now is making these comments, but yet still you have the GOP on some side. Many are starting to distance themselves. You heard what Mitch McConnell says, that he doubts if the president can save his presidency. Do you agree with him?
Well, I did hear that, but you have to take into consideration that Donald Trump won with a constituency that was outside of the mainstream or the establishment Republican Party. So he's defending the people that actually elected him, and they were at odds with the Washington Republican establishment. So to expect him to move mountains to get his agenda legislated would be asking the Republican establishment of Washington to adopt his program, which all indications are that they wouldn't, because he got elected from people who were against what the Republicans were doing. So Donald Trump was vintage campaigner Donald Trump. I don't think you should expect much. Donald Trump would have to go out and get his acolytes, his Republicans that are campaigning for office. He'd have to get them elected. They would have to move through the Republican or Washington, D.C. establishment by gaining seniority and chairing committees and subcommittees before you can actually really expect him to get an agenda. And that would probably bring him to close to his end of his term or the beginning of the next term.
But you know what, I'm not really sure how well he's going to get anything done, and that's what I opened this statement with, is highly doubtful, simply because last night he went out of his way to cut his own throat by going after, he didn't say it, the names, the people's by name, but he definitely did infer that John McCain was the reason why health care was stalled on his watch. He was definitely calling out, I got the names right here, Susan Collins and Bob Corker, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Jeff Flake, et cetera. These individuals have been, are going to be absolutely critical to him getting anything done. And by him going after his own party as opposed to going after Democrats, it's literally mind-boggling. So we'll leave that word off the table.
Well, let me go back to Charlottesville, because in his speech yesterday, he did defend the Charlottesville comments. He did say that, but he did omit the side, saying that many sides were to blame. What are we to make of the president and saying that, yeah, listen, I stand by what I say, but on the other side, he also omits some stuff.
Oh, and that was probably the critical issue that we're talking about, is the fact that he could not find it within himself to separate the two sides. His statement that there was a fault on both sides, most of the nation would realize that anybody that's walking down the street carrying a swastika or waving the Confederate flag and making Nazi salutes is going to, there's going to be some pushback, and most of the nation realizes that if you are pushing back against a message of hate like that, there really is no two sides to any argument. The fact that they had a candle, not a candlelight, but a torchlight march on Friday night, that should have been the precursor. Saturday should not have happened. The following day should not have happened. The city of Charlotte, the mayor, the police, they're under a lot of pressure right now because they did not take Friday night as a warning for what was going to happen on Saturday.
You spoke earlier about the Republican Party working with the president. I want to ask a question because he talks now about he'll shut the government down if the wall is not built. When you talk about shutting government down, there's a lot of effects that really come. Somewhere along the line, he's going to have to work with the GOP party, and the GOP party is going to have to work with the president. Agree?
I agree. I think that these are actually opening salvos in a strategy to mark their territory. Now, Mitch McConnell, as GOP Senate leader, majority leader, he has his work cut out in trying to get enough votes from the people he represents, from the other Republican senators, in order to pass legislation. And in order to do that, the Washington Republican establishment would have to make various compromises. If he can't get his members to close the gap between what Donald Trump and his administration is proposing and what the Republicans in his conference, the ones that actually have a constituency back home that they have to really please in order to stay in office. So there's a gap, and it needs a lot of work in order to really close that gap. It's possible. They would both have to really see where the negotiating positions are and try to narrow.
I think
difference.
What's happening here, what Mr. Muhammad is actually talking about, is that the Republican Party, the GOP, et cetera, has an identity crisis. I don't think that the GOP actually know who they are or, quite frankly, who they want to be going down the road. We are looking at really two Republican parties. We have the mainstream and the extreme. And they're at war with one another.
I don't know about
that. That's just my perception.
I mean, there's a group of people. One, you would have to believe that what's happening now is a recent vintage, and it isn't. I mean, it's been out there for quite a while. There's a division in the haves and the have-nots. There's an income gap that's wide and growing. There are a lot of people that's unemployed that are looking for work. They need some government guidance in terms of growing the economy. So the political division that you speak about, it encompasses Democrats as well as Republicans.
Oh, absolutely.
And I believe that both of you are divided too, so we got to bring you back next week so you can continue on this, because our time was up for this particular segment.
Love to do it.
But definitely thank you, and Mr. Muhammad, thank you for coming to share with us. Definitely have you back. Lee, thank you very much. Of course, we'll continue to follow all the updates coming out of Washington, D.C. You'll find them right here, and we'll break that down here on Open just about every Wednesday. We do that with Lee and our political analyst team. And so, Nasir Muhammad, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
All righty, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more show. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
And I can't change, even if I try. Keeps me warm. She
are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Well, through its missions of mercy, When in Need Foundation is dedicated to helping children and adults that are in need of help around the globe. Here now to tell us more about the foundation, we welcome now our Director of Media Relations, Dr. George Onora. Thank you so much for being with us, and I'm glad I can pronounce it right. And we talk about missions. When you talk about missions of mercy, obviously, it's a mission of mercy that you guys are really doing in terms of meeting some of the world's most challenged people.
Yeah, Mission of Mercy, acronym MOM, what it basically is, we try to touch the lives of people in need. And we've done this throughout the world, orphanages to, in the Dominican Republic, to Africa, and here in the United States. We go to communities that have need and research what their needs are, and we try to find a way to solve those needs. It might be in providing basic needs. It might be educational resources, such as providing shoes. A case in point is in Nigeria, at Samuel Njemanze Primary School, a school with about 350 students. Some of them were dropping out of school because they walk to school barefooted, and because of the sunshine, they get, nails, step on nails and things like that. So what we did, we decided to provide them with, shoes, and we had soles for education to avoid, these kids, dropping out of school. We also were able to rebuild classroom blocks, provided school supply, backpacks, etc. And, so we do this, including going into the communities that have need in the inner cities, providing educational grants, because education is one way that we can lift those people that are, the less fortunate, and to step them up to be able to, live a sustainable life.
And I know one of the things that you've done is, in certain countries, you're doing some great work in the area of dealing with malaria and medical illnesses. Share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, malaria is something that is an endemic issue in sub-Saharan Africa, and Nigeria especially. For instance, about 100 million people are afflicted by malaria. And out of this, in Nigeria, about 300,000 die as a result. So it's something that, government and organizations such as When in Need Foundation is trying to do something about it. For instance, I'm sure you've heard about the IDPs, those people displaced by the war in northeastern Nigeria, the Boko Harams. Some of them were, scattered all over the country and living in such a squalor condition. So with the When in Need Foundation in 2016, went to one of the camps at Abuja and provided malaria screening and testing, provided medication that are approved by the government, including mosquito nets, and so, as well as food supplies. So malaria being such a serious issue, that is one of the areas that When in Need Foundation is presently trying to address in Nigeria.
And also your orphanages, because obviously there are a lot of people who are really in need, and you do a good job of providing orphanages for those in need. Talk about where your orphanages are and what are you seeing out there?
I was privileged to be one of the, those that traveled to the Dominican Republic. We went to Santiago, Chile. We went to Argentina. And when you go to these orphanages, you can really see the kind of condition that, these orphans are going through. No food is very scarce. They're basically in such a poor, amenities to sustain those orphanages are lacking. So what the When in Need Foundation did was to go there and really research the needs before we go, and to see how we can best support these orphanages, whether it's providing clothing, basic necessities, food, sanitary needs, and stuff like that, hygiene supplies. And this is something that we've done from Argentina to Chile to Uruguay. We even visited London and Paris, of all places.
Yeah. And so when you look across the world and you see all of this great devastation that's going on, you guys have really been boots on the ground. We're trying to meet the needs of people. Where are you getting your help from to be able to do what you have to do?
Thank you for bringing up that question. It's really a good one. One of the things that makes When in Need Foundation stand out is this fact that the organization is being self-funded by a single mother that, worked her way up, and she's using her savings and investment to sustain the organization. Chief Dr. Chitachi Ektin from Nigeria. So she basically has the passion to help, and she said, you know what, I'm gonna give back to communities in need. And this is something that she has done time and time again. But just recently, we've started to reach out to see how we can find resources from individuals, organizations willing to assist us.
And so if people want to assist, what do they do?
If they want to assist, they can go to our website, www.winfound.org, or contact@winfound.org. Or they can also call us, reach us at 347-249-3500.
And you could do that for sure. Now, I wanted to get a chance. We didn't talk about your Water for All project.
Oh, the Water project was something that, was one of the biggest projects we've done. We have this community in Owerri, Imo State. It's called Ngokbala. The children, the elderly, and those widows living in the community have to trek about 5 miles to fetch water. And you can see how difficult that can be. So what we did when we got the request to come by and assist, we went there and installed a huge water tower, and right now these villages have water coming off, right in front of their backyard. So, and this is really something that is, with the WIN Foundation is able to do to help. And, with the help of installing this water tower, about 30,000 families now have water right in their backyard.
Wow. Amazing work that you guys are doing in the When in Need Foundation. And you saw the information at the bottom of your screen, so we ask that you get connected with the When in Need Foundation as they continue to do great work across the world. And Dr. George, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Pleasure.
Good to have you here with us. All righty.
Thank you.
Listen, we want you to stay with us. We're going to have more open. We'll be right back right after this.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Well, the New York City primaries are right around the corner, and many districts in the Bronx along the entire city are looking for changes as well as improvements. Now, here to shed some light on some of those issues, we welcome now the founder of political consulting group, Kamar Newman, and it's the Newman Political Consulting Group. And good to have you, Kamar.
Thank you, thank you.
Good. So we talk here in the borough of the Bronx, obviously a lot of things to talk about, but this honestly is a busy time of year because, November will be the general election, but the primaries are equally as important because you got a lot of candidates out there in the field.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how important primaries are to picking the next elected official that's going to represent your districts. So as you can see, there's always a low turnout for primaries, but people got to understand how important it is because this is where you get to pick your new elected official rather than the incumbent that's still sitting in there for, years and years.
And so when you talk about picking that elected official, obviously it starts with the primary process. Why are people not engaged really in the primary process?
Well, because not a lot of people are, registered to vote, and they don't realize that primaries are broken down for whatever party that you're in. And it's a Democratic primary that's coming up, and even though there's a lot of people that are registered in the Democratic Party, a lot of them don't come out because they don't realize how important it is to vote in primaries.
And so here in the Bronx, we got a couple of races going on, and I know that a lot of stuff we're paying attention to it. I know you had your sheet out there. So
Yeah, I got my cheat sheet.
You got your cheat sheet out there, right? So what are some of the hot races that you're taking a look at here?
Well, I'm looking at, City Council District 13, 14, and 18, because there's just something about them that just doesn't sit right with me. And I'll definitely start off with 18 because, as you see, Senator Ruben Diaz Sr. is running for city council as if he wasn't a city councilman before. And I'm just trying to figure out the reason for him coming back to City Hall rather than staying in his state house or just retiring, because I could guarantee you he already has a very great pension.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, because I interviewed him, this is what he told me, specifically right here, sitting where you're sitting right now. He says, I want to see the work that's been done in Albany. I want to see it finished, and the way that I can see it finished is by being a part of the city council.
I don't agree with that. I mean, he's part of the establishment, and it's time that you start putting in people that are new faces for the party, because his generation has already did it. It's time to start pushing the younger electeds or district leaders into elected official positions so that they could start doing the work for the next generation to come.
Well, you got another councilman district race, which is right in the Fordham area. That's District 14, and you got the incumbent, which is Councilman Fernando Cabrera.
Oh, Fernando Cabrera. To my understanding, he had missed the last candidate forum that was at Monroe, and his excuse was because he was going around to National Night Out. And I completely get it. You have to support, NYPD because they have done a lot of great work throughout the city. But at the same time, you owe your constituent a reason for why they should essentially hire you to continue the job that you're already doing in city council. His opponent, Randy Abreu, who's a lawyer, he's running this very strong progressive agenda, this Bernie Sanders kind of agenda. And he's young. He's fired up, and I think he's going to be able to make a lot of change to the Bronx that needs to happen in the Bronx.
So you think he might possibly win?
It's difficult to say, but I think if he goes out there and he, speaks to constituents, gets their quality of life issues, and come up with a plan to address those quality of life issues rather than running on the progressive agenda. He needs to be running on the agenda of the people of his district.
Do you agree with the philosophy that a lot of people say, like when you have a primary, you have several candidates out there, it is probably the best time for anybody who's out there running, given the fact that with low voter turnout, you could possibly win a primary, given the fact that if you get a split ballot?
Well, yes, I've seen it happen. I agree with it. But at the same time, it doesn't really shows the majority of the district because you only have a few people that went out to vote, and the winner doesn't really represent the majority. So now you have someone that's going to be elected in November to represent that community, but they don't really represent the district because, again, it was just a low voter turnout that went in and voted for this individual.
I remember we had a political analyst on set one time, and he shared with us when it comes to voter turnout, it actually turns out to be in the borough of the Bronx, it would only seat a quarter of Yankee Stadium. Almost a quarter to, anywhere between a quarter to a half of Yankee Stadium, the actual with the 1.4 million people, residents that are here, the people who are registered to actually to vote. What do you think is going to take for people to become more active and more engaged in this process that really a lot of people died for?
Well, it definitely starts at the White House. What we see right now with the Trump rhetoric and everything that has been going on, I think it's going to start pushing people to be more engaged and more politically inclined so that we don't make this kind of mistake again, because that's how I feel about the Trump White House. Is it was a mistake that he got in there. So if the White House continue with the way that they're going, we'll definitely start seeing a higher turnout when it comes to primaries and the general election.
Oh, so you feel like it's gonna trigger a lot more people coming out?
I think so.
More than the Obama presidency?
Possibly.
It's particularly the area of minorities, because you know minorities, when they said that this is the first time to really have a reasonable shot since Jesse Jackson running for the presidency, you saw a high voter turnout in the Obama administration, but then yet, or the Obama presidency. But then when we talk about this particular election, this last election, nearly 53% of eligible American voters didn't show up to the polls. What are we to make of that?
Well, we all sat at home thinking that, you know, Hillary Clinton had this in the bag, that she was just going to win. And I remember sitting at home with my kids and watching on TV and just watching, like, the color being removed from everyone's face when they realized that, you know, Hillary Clinton was going to lose this election. So when it comes to, again, to the voter turnout, after seeing what had happened in the presidential election, and what's coming down, you know, we had 2018 midterm elections, people are going to start coming out to vote because we've already seen what Trump is bringing to the table, and I don't think anybody wants to continue dealing with that.
All right, well, we'll take a look and see exactly what happens. Now, we do know that the time to get out to vote actually has been, well, I should say, if you haven't registered yet, that deadline is actually passed. Going forward to the general election, do you have any predictions as to what we'll see?
Well, hopefully people start getting out to register so that they can vote in the general election. You know, there's a lot of organizations out there that will be doing get out and vote and start doing a lot of registration for people to get out and vote. But my prediction is that, you know, general election is just going to slip on by, and people are going to get ready for the congressional races that are coming next year.
All right, Kamar Newman, founder of the Newman Political Consulting Group. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, taking a quick break. We'll be back with more shows. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, Can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Meaningful World has had its 12th humanitarian mission trip to Haiti. Now, the organization plans and provides healing to peace and people in Haiti. Here to share more about it and tell us more about some of the other work that they're doing, we welcome Meaningful World Vice President Lorraine Simmons, and good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, glad to have you. Well, listen, oftentimes what I tell people is that, you know, we as media get an opportunity to show cameras and things when things occur. And when we talk about Haiti, of course, a lot of us were paying particular attention when the earthquake happened and the subsequent months thereafter.
Sure.
But the cameras pull out.
They do.
And people like yourself still stay in.
Right.
And
We've
you've
been
got
there
boots on
12
the ground.
times, yeah.
Right. So give us the latest on where things are in Haiti right now.
Well, right now, I think they're still working and dealing with extreme poverty. That was one of the things that our team member had gone to the first mission to Haiti right after the earthquake and then returned again this year for her second time. And she was dismayed to see that the poverty wasn't based on the earthquake. She thought, you know, that they're dealing with this trauma and everything is crumbling around them. And she was, I think, hoping that when she returned, she would see an extreme difference in the poverty level. There's an extreme change in the amount of devastation physically with the buildings. They're cleaning it up and they're starting to rebuild. But the poverty level is still really extreme. And so we're finding it difficult to work with people because they're hungry, they're dealing with extreme dehydration. They're in the people are also working with not getting paid. Government jobs. We were at an interview actually, and there was a manifestation, was what they were calling it, that happened outside of the radio station. And so we went outside to see what was going on, and it was a group of people who were street cleaners, and they hadn't been paid for 2.5 years. They were emaciated, they were exhausted. You could just see the desperation on their faces. And they were trying to get some attention, like, we need some help here.
So give a little bit about what you guys have been able to do in your recent in your most recent trip.
Well, we worked with university students in their master's program for social work. We did a 3-day program with them to teach them how to help people identify their feelings, work through their emotional traumas, how to empathize with one another, how to communicate in ways that lift people up, lift one another up. So we're preparing them to go out and do the kind of work that we do so that when we leave, it's sustained there.
We're seeing some pictures, and you can take a look behind you and share with us a little bit about what we're seeing.
This is just a photo of houses on the hillside. These are their homes. And you can imagine if there's an earthquake there that those homes will just crumble. But they're working on building them to be more earthquake ready. This is at an orphanage that we've worked with for several years. These people, these children just moved into this new space, and it's out in the countryside. They have room to move and play. Where they were before, it was a small, tiny little courtyard with no resources for them. So they were just delighted to, I'm sorry, the picture's gone.
No, it's okay.
They were delighted to see us. We know a lot of the children now. We follow them as they grow. And they're just so excited to have this new space and freedom to run around and play.
Are you optimistic about what we're seeing out there in Haiti? Because you know, we've heard reports about resources, whether the resources were actually reaching the people, the resources were slow to go. I mean, we've done, you know, several outreach events trying to make sure that people get things.
Right,
but,
that's always a challenge,
yeah.
And I can't speak for all organizations. I'm not versed in a lot of those organizations, but what we do, I can tell you that. When we fundraise for supporting children in schools and with food, and we fundraise for our own needs to help us get there. When we raise the money for the children, we give it 100% to the orphanages or the schools. We sponsored a child for school this year who is 11 years old. He did not go to school last year because his mother could not afford the tuition. We met with the director of the school, and we gave the money directly to the school, and we will follow with him. The person who donated will become his mentor because his father has died.
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing work. I want to talk about Armenia for a minute because many people know of Armenia, but there's some big problems out there as well.
Yes, we, as you know, went on mission to Armenia just recently in April, and one of our goals is coming to fruition, hopefully, which is the suicide prevention hotline. And we're moving forward with training volunteers and hope to have those hotlines up and running by October 10th. And, you know, they have challenges as well with work and sustaining themselves. So the suicide rates have gone up. So that's what we're doing. And
a little surprised to hear that, you know, suicide being so prevalent out there?
No, I wasn't surprised actually, because a lot of the men are going off to Russia to work because there's no jobs in Armenia. So the families are left alone. They have the war still, so there's a lot of trauma based on coming home with injuries and, you know, the PTSD. So I'm not surprised. Yeah.
So how could the public play a part? Because obviously you do some great work and you do rely somewhat on public donations to be able to do what you do. So how can the public play a part, assist, and, you know, even maybe if they want to travel too?
Oh, they could definitely travel. We have programs that train people to be missionary, you know, to work with us on missions. And on our website, they can go for the programs. It goes for a whole year. It's once a month for about 9 months, and you can be trained to know how to do the work that we do, which is the 7-step integrative healing model, which connects the mind, body, spirit, and the ecology. So it teaches what we're doing. They can do that. We also have fundraisers. Right now we're still working on raising the money to continue the suicide hotline, and of course trying to get back to Haiti to put a pilot program into the education system.
And on your last trip, how long were you in Haiti for?
We were there for 16 days, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so definitely a lot to take home with you and a lot of work that still needs to be done. Thank you so much for the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And of course, hopefully our viewers will get in touch with you.
I hope so.
All righty, Lorraine Simmons, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty, Liz, we want you to stay with us. We got more Open coming up. We'll be right back.
I guess sometimes things just happen. Devastating things. Your whole world changes in an instant. That's what happened to me the day my mother had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
The New York City National Democratic Socialists of America believe it's all about creating social change while building social energy in the community. Here now to discuss their upcoming Bronx and Uptown DSA meetings. We welcome now DSA Advocate members Jawanza James Williams and Casey Browder. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Good. And you guys are really taking activism to another level. And obviously, with all that's happening, particularly in Charlottesville and the events of recent, really trying to make your voice heard.
Yeah, for sure. Did you want to? I guess primarily we, as an organization, we're not just a Trump response group that formed spontaneously to respond to the horror of this new administration. We are a long-lasting organization. We are building political power, and we are trying to do the work, not only to change people's minds, but also to make sure that our policies reflect what our communities need. So for instance, if we talk about Charlottesville, and Charleston really, violence with white supremacy, it shows up in like cars moving at 40 miles per hour, but white supremacy also shows up in our public policy. White supremacy is the Trump administration and the GOP trying to take away health care for millions of Americans who are working class.
I think that along with what Jawanza said, the idea that people are going to be energized by a reaction to the Trump administration, I think, if anything, people are more disenchanted and in fear than ever. And DSA is, really trying to show people, we want to kind of build as much change as we can, kind of before we even put anybody in office. And there are ways to do that, and we want to show people what a worker cooperative looks like, what cooperative housing looks like, and these just various alternative models that can show that the people have the power, the renters have the power, the workers have the power to organize themselves and run their institutions. And I know one of the things you're talking about in your work is workers' rights, and give a little bit about the work that you're doing with workers' rights.
So what I would really want to say is that a lot of folks in this country, just from the history that we've experienced, where worker movements and socialist movements, communist movements that are uplifting, the working class and building the power of working people, has continuously been crushed. And I feel like we see that happening now. But with the Fight for 15 that's happening all across the country, we support initiatives like this because we understand that the working class needs to have, access to livable wages, because it's part and parcel to the issue of capitalism. But I don't know what the chapter itself is doing exactly on this issue.
Yeah, well, let me ask another question about injustice, because we, yesterday watching the speech of the president, a lot of people have said, and you've heard it on this show, that, the speech was ultimately divisive, and racial injustice continues to be a major, problem across America. How does DSA look at racial injustice, and what are you guys doing about speaking towards it? Because I know that you guys have been very vocal.
Well, I think racial injustice is part and parcel with capitalism. I think a lot of socialists will say that, the idea of a racist institution will be sort of alleviated when we reach a future where class is, sort of destroyed, and we're all on a more even level playing field. Specifically, what DSA is doing is, there's been a lot of attention around prison abolition. Anna DuVernay's documentary, The 13th, it demonstrates that we really, the prison system is a way of, it's slave labor. And so we recently voted at the National Convention on a prison abolition strategy. And we in New York are specifically focused on the Close Rikers campaign. So Mayor de Blasio came out and in support of Close Rikers after, several very visible protests by the Close Rikers campaign by Just Leadership. But he put a timeline of 10 years. And we think, why 10 years? Why not much sooner than that? Because this is a huge problem. Prison is just one of many institutions where you're just kind of shuffling away the poor and underprivileged away from, the higher classes. And that's exactly what we're fighting.
Could I also deepen here? Also, I think, as democratic socialists, we recognize that classism is an incredible issue that we've always dealt with in this country. But we also, what's special about us and about our analysis is that we do not think about classism separate of race. We understand capitalism as always being a racialized capitalism, that the stratification of wealth and the distribution of wealth that is disproportionately unfair, that is exaggerated based on one's identities, and racism also informs that. And I think that President Trump and the GOP overwhelmingly does not recognize that reality. They're not operating from a framework that is based in the lived experiences of their constituents.
And so give us a little bit about your position with immigration, because obviously we know the president's stance is on immigration. You guys have particular work that you're doing as well.
Well, for me, I can say that immigration is second to people's humanity. People are human beings. Like, our earth truly has no borders. And if people are trying to search for better opportunities to build their lives, to save their lives, then who is anyone to try to stop that process? But ultimately, what I think is that, again, you have to operate from a framework or from an analysis that recognizes the reasons why we have mass immigration in this country. So, for instance, when we have corporations that are leaving our country, which Trump always talks about, and going to other places and getting a lower wage for that work, it destroys local economies. So, for instance, the U.S. overwhelmingly since the 90s, before Trump, is creating situations in, for instance, Mexico, that is devastating local economies, forcing people to have to figure out what they're going to do. So, of course, they come here. Why would they not?
And so, before we get out of here, I want to ask the question about, you got some upcoming branch meetings and things like that. How can people become a part? What can they do, and how can they connect?
We'll definitely come out to our branch meetings. We have monthly branch meetings. This Thursday at 7 p.m. we're meeting at the Andrew Friedman home at like 164th and Grand Concourse. We always provide food and childcare. We don't think that there should be any, we try to alleviate any limitations to why people wouldn't be able to come out to a meeting. And our meetings always give a kind of teach-in for people, you know, like that anybody can access. We want to make it accessible, and then also do report backs from our various working groups, so hear about the work that we're doing.
And just one more thing for any viewer who is confused by what we mean about socialism and democratic socialism, really briefly, I just wanted to say that one, if you're drawing on past history, remember socialism is better said socialisms. The socialism that we are organizing around is about making sure that everyday people have access to the rights that they have. If you have access, if your right is to get an education and you have no way to get to that school, then what is the point of having that right?
I gotta leave it there because that's the time we have for that segment. I got you. All right, and we've got you. Thank you so much for coming. Jawanza James Williams and Casey Browder, our guests here, and we thank you both for sharing with us.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you. And unfortunately, we had to cut them off. Why? Because we're at the end of the show. And I got to thank our guests for joining us. But most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch Recablecast at 5 and 10 on Optimum's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Fios, you know we're on Channel 33. Anytime you can check us out on the web at bronxnet.org. I am Darren Hyman saying thank you for watching. Until the next time we meet, stay safe, God bless, and keep this channel wide open. Take care.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me. That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.